I never thought I'd be the kind of person to walk in on a moment like that. You think those things happen to other people in movies or in stories you read online. But when it happens to you, it's not dramatic. It's quiet. It's strange. Time slows down, and you're standing there thinking, did I just see what I think I saw? It started on an ordinary Thursday. I'd just come back early from a trip. My flight got moved up, and I didn't tell anyone. I figured I'd surprise him. After all, we'd been together for 5 years. Surprises were still our thing, right? We weren't one of those couples who stopped doing cute things. So I got home around 3 p.m. The sun was still out. I unlocked the door slowly, smiling to myself. I could hear music playing faintly, something soft and jazzy. I thought it was sweet that he still played the playlist we made together during the pandemic. That felt like a lifetime ago. I walked in, dragging my suitcase behind me, thinking maybe we'd go out for dinner later. Maybe we'd sit by the fire pit in the backyard. Maybe we'd have one of those nights where you forget about the world. For a while. But I only made it a few steps before I heard voices. His voice. And another one, feminine, laughing softly. I stopped. Not because I was sure of anything yet, but because something in the way he laughed back didn't sound like how he laughed with friends. It was a little too familiar, a little too warm. Told myself I was being ridiculous. Maybe his sister was visiting. Maybe it was someone from work. So I did the one thing I still regret. I moved quietly. I didn't call out. I just stood in the hallway and listened. And then I saw it. He was standing in the kitchen. Shirt off, she was behind him, touching his back. Her hands were moving in that way. Gentle, slow, like she knew every part of him already. They hadn't seen me yet. I should have screamed. I should have dropped my bag. I should have slammed the door. But I didn't. I backed up like I'd touched fire. I stepped out of the house without a sound, walked to my car, and sat there, hands trembling. I don't know how long I sat in the car. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe an hour. I kept staring at the steering wheel, my brain spinning like a wheel that couldn't catch grip. I kept hearing that laugh over and over. And then something unexpected happened. I wasn't angry. I was sad. Deeply, painfully sad. But beneath that sadness was confusion. Because this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about why. So I went back inside. By then, she was gone. He was in the living room, flipping channels like nothing happened. His shirt was back on. He looked up and froze. I said, "Hey." And he said, "You're home early." Like we were strangers, like we'd just met. I sat down across from him, and for a full minute, neither of us said a word. Then I asked, "How long?" He didn't pretend to be clueless. He didn't deny anything. He just closed his eyes and said, "A few months." And that's when I realized this wasn't a one-time thing. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was something real, something intentional. I thought I'd be yelling. I thought I'd cry. But instead, I asked him, "Do you love her?" He looked down at his hands. "I don't know." And I believed him. That's the hardest part. The not knowing. The in-between. The part where your entire world rearranges itself and you're not sure what's real anymore. I got up and poured myself some water. My hands were still shaking. I said, "So what now?" He didn't answer. I said, "Do you want this to be over?" He said, "I don't want to hurt you." I laughed, quietly, bitterly. Too late for that. And then I left. Again. This time I drove. I didn't have a destination in mind. I just needed to get out. I ended up at this little diner we used to go to in college. The waitress still remembered me. She brought me coffee and pie and asked if I was okay. I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. Sitting there, I remembered the first time he and I met. It was a crowded party. He was wearing this ridiculous red jacket, and he spilled beer on my shoes. He was awkward and charming and said he'd replace them if I gave him my number. I never imagined that years later I'd be here, trying to figure out how to unlove someone who became part of my life. But here's the twist in this story. A few weeks later, she called me, the other woman. I didn't know whether to hang up or curse her out, but I didn't do either. I listened. She said she didn't know I existed at first, that he told her we were separated, that he wasn't ready to talk about it, that he was figuring things out. I wanted to hate her. I really did. But there was something in her voice. That same confusion, the same pain I'd felt. She wasn't a villain. She was lost too. We talked for over an hour. She told me about their conversations, about how he made her feel safe, how he said he hadn't been happy for a long time. She apologized over and over, and somehow I forgave her. Because the truth is, this wasn't about her. It was about him. It was about the choices he made, about how he let two people fall in love with him without the courage to tell either one the full truth. And I realized then I could hold on to the pain, or I could let it teach me. So I helped her, not out of spite, not out of some twisted sense of revenge, but because I saw myself in her. I saw the girl I used to be, looking for warmth, for safety, for someone who made me feel like I mattered. We both deserved better. She eventually left him too. And me? I started therapy. I started journaling. I called old friends I hadn't talked to in years. I started rebuilding slowly. I didn't rush into a new relationship. I didn't try to cover the pain with distractions. I let it hurt. I let it change me. And you know what? That moment I didn't expect, that moment I walked in on, was the end of something. But it was also the beginning of something else. A new version of me. One who listens to her intuition. One who asks questions when things feel off. One who knows her worth. Infidelity isn't just about cheating. It's about breaking trust. It's about dishonesty. It's about the slow erosion of connection. But it can also be a mirror. It shows you where the cracks were, where things started slipping. And sometimes it shows you who you were pretending to be, just to keep something that had already changed. Today, I'm in a better place. Not perfect. Not tied up in a neat little bow, but stronger, wiser, softer too. So if you've ever been through something like this, if you've ever caught someone in a moment you didn't expect, I want you to know it's not the end. It's a redirection. You are not broken. You are not foolish for loving deeply. And you are absolutely not alone. Sometimes the most painful truths bring the clearest clarity. And sometimes helping someone else walk away from the same fire that burned you is how you finally heal. I wish I could say things got easier right away. But the truth is, the nights were the worst. That quiet stretch of darkness after midnight, when the house feels too empty and your mind won't stop asking what if. I'd stare at the ceiling, reliving old conversations, wondering if there were signs I missed. If maybe, in some twisted way, it was my fault. You start questioning everything. What you wore, how you spoke, how often you held hands, whether you made enough time for each other. But those questions are dangerous. Because when someone breaks trust, it's not your responsibility to carry the weight of their decisions. Still, healing doesn't follow logic. It follows emotion. And I had a lot of emotions to walk through. I remember one night I broke down, crying in the shower. The kind of cry where your whole body shakes and the water feels like it's trying to rinse away something inside you. I slid down to the floor, holding my chest, whispering, "Why wasn't I enough?" And then I stopped. Because somewhere deep in me, I knew I was enough. I always had been. I just gave too much of myself to someone who didn't know how to hold it with care. So the next day, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I took myself out. I got dressed up. Not for anyone else. For me. I wore a soft green dress I used to love but hadn't touched in over a year. I did my makeup, put on earrings, and I went to a little art exhibit downtown. and something unexpected happened. A woman beside me struck up a conversation. We were looking at this abstract painting, just swirls of color, no clear image. And she said, "It's chaotic, but kind of beautiful, don't you think?" I smiled. "Exactly how I feel lately." She laughed. "Maybe. That's the point of healing. It's messy, but still art." We exchanged numbers. We're friends now. Her name's Lena. She was also recovering from betrayal. Different story, same ache. Isn't that wild? You can think you're the only one walking through a storm, and then someone else appears, umbrella in hand, and says, "Me too." That's what I learned, that we don't heal in isolation, we heal in connection. I started a small journal group a few months later, 5 women, all with stories that hurt in different ways, but all of us trying to make sense of our scars. We didn't sit around and bash our exes. We talked about rediscovery. One night, I asked the group, "What's one thing you used to love before? The relationship that you stopped doing?" One woman said painting, another said hiking, someone else said dancing alone in her kitchen. And me? I used to write. So I picked up a notebook and started again. At first, it was just messy scribbles, angry paragraphs, then softer ones, then stories. That's actually how this whole video started. One entry became a reflection. One reflection became a story worth sharing. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. Infidelity isn't just about betrayal. It's about identity. When someone cheats, you don't just lose trust. You lose the version of yourself you were when you trusted them. And that's the person you have to grieve. 2. I had to let go of the woman who believed love always meant forever. I had to say goodbye to the girl who kept trying to fix what someone else kept breaking. But what I found in her place was someone deeper, someone real. There's this quote I read. "Sometimes you don't realize your own strength until you have to forgive someone who wasn't sorry and accept a goodbye you never got." That hit hard. He never really apologized. Not fully. He said the words, "Sure, I'm sorry." But it wasn't the kind of apology that acknowledged the ripple effect of his actions. He never said, "I took away your safety. I made you question your worth. I let you carry blame you didn't deserve." But I don't need that from him anymore. I gave that to myself. And if you're watching this right now, feeling broken or confused or unlovable, I want to say something. Directly to you. You are not the sum of someone else's decisions. You are not damaged. You are not too much, and you are not alone. It took time, but I stopped checking his social media. I stopped wondering what he was doing or who he was with. I stopped needing answers to questions that would never give me peace. And one morning, I woke up. And I didn't think about him first. I thought about breakfast. I thought about sunlight. I thought about me. And that was the beginning of real healing. Now, when I tell this story, people often ask, if you could go back, would you do anything differently? And honestly, no. Because that heartbreak gave birth to a new path. Helping that other woman? It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming power in a situation that tried to take it from me. It was about breaking the cycle of silence, of shame, of women being pitted against each other. We both walked away. We both healed. And we both built better lives. Sometimes the universe breaks you open, not to destroy you, but to let more light in. So if you're in the thick of it, trust this. There is life after betrayal. There is joy after devastation. And there is love after loss, especially the love you rediscover within yourself. I don't need closure from him. I found it in myself, in my voice, in this story. And now, maybe in sharing it, you'll find a little piece of your own, too.